Hi, good morning, everybody, and thank you for joining us for this next episode of one of Rabbit's webinars called Engage Now for a Strong Rebound. We're very excited today to be joined by Vince Consoli of Promark company that has been around for decades. He brings a wealth of experience and knowledge and has pushed us to think more about the future. So as we think about returning to work, as we think about some states that are talking about opening back up and all of these kinds of ideas, we wanted to get everybody on that page and thinking forward so that when everything starts to happen, you're on top. So let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so if this is your first time on a Rabbit webinar, my name is Casey. I'm a digital marketing manager here at Rabbit.
I'm Hillary Wilson. I'm the Global Accounts Manager here at Rabbit.
And I'm Vince Consoli. I'm the Market President at Promark. And thanks to Casey, the old Market President at Promark, apparently.
Oh, what does that mean?
Well, you just said he brings decades of stuff. So
Oh,
clearly
okay.
I'm the old guy on the call. That's what she was trying to say. But
Fair
that's
enough.
okay.
I meant Promark brings decades, although I'm sure that you have decades to your name as well, but that wasn't my
Unfortunately,
intention.
yes, I do.
Oh boy, you got me, you got me. And then as we go throughout the day today, we wanted to make today's webinar a little fun, a little creative. So you'll see that each slide doesn't have a lot of text on it. Instead, we have brought in some of our favorite dream home office backgrounds. And we'd love for you to chime in as we go throughout the chat and say, which one's your favorite? Is one really speaking to you? You'll see that several of them are neutral. Some of them are very bright and colorful. And so we'd love to just kind of spice it up a little bit and hear from you guys on which one you prefer. Okay, so if you're unfamiliar with Rabbit, we're a talent management platform fueled by continuous employee feedback. We use objective, continuous employee feedback to achieve each one of these tools in your talent management platform. So if you have any questions at all about that, just let me or Hillary know at the end of the episode.
Yes, and Promark has been providing solutions around the talent life cycle for over 52 years, mostly in the areas of human resource advisory, career transition, executive coaching, and leadership development.
Very cool. Okay, so let's just jump right in. You know, it's been a rough few weeks. Millions of layoffs, so many teams have been furloughed. As we talk to members of our book club and speak to members of the HR community, people have really been struggling, and we know that. It's been definitely a difficult season for folks in our space who manage people and are really trying to drive them to their full potential. But as we think about phrases like survival mode, it's being used for not only small and medium businesses, but we're hearing it from our enterprise level folks as well. So everybody across the gambit is experiencing very unique, well, very similar challenges, even if they're very different company sizes. So a lot's changing, and trusted industry leaders are sharing lots of great resources to help talent leaders navigate the current waters. At the end of this deck, we've put together a slide with several different resources that we've found very helpful and useful, and we hope you do as well. But what we'd like to do today is offer you a pair of binoculars and focus on the future. What you can do today that will help you set up for a successful summer.
Yeah, we really want you to focus on the things we can do today. You know, we want to be like the good farmer who doesn't know when the rain's coming and needs that rain in order to grow his crops or her crops, but they don't know when the rain's coming. But they always prepare their fields ahead of time so that when the rain does come, they get the maximum benefit from every drop. Believe it or not, this thing will end. I know I know you may be thinking, I don't know when, but I'm thinking that sometimes myself, but it will end. And when it does, you know, we don't exactly know what is ahead and what is normal, or what we call normal today may not be normal then, but it's going to end. And guess what? People are going to look different. Your partners are going to look different. You know, vendors, folks like that. Things may be a little different, but guess what? there's going to be lots of room for growth. There's going to be a talent war that's going to be absolutely insane. Folks, you know, if you don't treat your people correctly now, and I don't care if they're furloughed, I don't care if they're working twice as hard as they normally do, or if they're working from home, if you don't treat them well now, they either aren't coming back or they are going to take advantage of this incredible talent war, and they're going to go find another place to work because they can. A big thing you have to remember, though, please prepare now for what's going to happen. Care for those people. You know, we try to take this and put it together and summarize it in 3 parts. Internal communications, engagement opportunities, and actionable next steps. So amid the flurry of all the stuff that's happening over the past couple of weeks, one thing is steady. Employee communications. You have to communicate with your employees. Again, don't care if they're furloughed. Don't care if they're working in the plant or in the office. Don't care if they're working from home. You need to stay engaged with your employees. Say thanks. You can never do that enough. Say thanks. If they're working from home, it's a different world for them. They need to be thanked for that. If they're coming to work every day, they need to hear thank you from you. You got to tell them some things. Communicate news, use details. You know, I come from the old school. If you don't tell them things, they're going to make it up and then tell their friends. So you don't want to have gossip all over there. And, you know, you need to be sure to be giving them details and communications. And finally, you need to know what they're thinking or feeling.
Yeah, and I think it's safe to assume that everybody on this call has formal or informal communications tools in place. And this could be anything from Slack to a LinkedIn group, or I recently got to demo Promark's ProVault, which was a really great communications tool. And these are really great ways where you can encourage engagement and boost morale by using them to create community, allow them to exchange ideas, learn about learning and development opportunities while they're either on the bench or while they're actively in their roles. You know, ensure that your people are hearing the important changes to your company from you and not the news. That's exactly what Vince just said. Like, rumors will run rampant during times like this, and ongoing communication is necessity. So if you know something hairy is coming down the pike, whether it be a bankruptcy or an additional round of layoffs, get ahead of it. Don't allow for somebody to cannibalize that from you. Or if it's something positive, whether it's company interaction and charitable donations to like the Jose Andres Foundation, or you know, donating COVID-19 supplies, or even if it's something like open enrollment benefits, status quo, make sure that they're being communicated and highly visible on multiple formats. So it's not just going out through email, you're also putting it on your intranet, through Slack, and whatever means of communication that you have. So encourage that they bookmark it as a best practice, and that any high impact pieces of information feel impactful to them. And encourage a senior leader to hold office hours. So a Zoom room or a Slack channel where one day a week they have an open door policy. We're hearing a lot of this, especially from our global organizations, where in each local office, somebody will be the representative that people can come to and ask any questions or bring any concerns. You know, Vince has also hinted at furloughed teams. So I'd be curious to hear a little bit more from him about that.
Well, that's right. You know, we are in a habit of furloughing somebody and then just figuring out, well, they'll be back, and we don't think about them when we furlough them, but that's not exactly the way to do it. Folks that you want to come back, that are furloughed, you need to make sure you're continuing to engage with them. They have to feel like you're listening, like you've heard them, like you didn't forget about them. Well, there's a couple things involved in there. You know, you have to be concerned about the no work rule, which basically says, you know, you can't, if you ask them a work question, you have to like pay them for the day. So you have to be careful of that. But these things should be voluntary. You have to get them engaged in something, some community that's a voluntary thing. You know, you can't, you know, you can't use the regular employee communication tools like you would. They should not be on your email system. They should not be on your network anywhere. So you got to come up with something else. So there's all kind of stuff. Hillary and Casey have mentioned Slack and other things like that. We also have, we've created one too, Pro Vault, Pro Navigator. It's two things that we do, but it's loaded with information, but it's a community. It gives them information, but they can talk with each other. And the reason why they would want to do something like that is they miss the personal contact that they had every day at work. That's important to them. They want to talk to their colleagues. And guess what else they want to hear? They want to hear from the company. They want to be sure that something is going on and that we're getting closer to what is normal. You got to make sure that these things are in place, deal with something that's a community involved, give them some information. And the next step is all about engagement.
And like you said, Vince, thinking about those high performers that, were regrettable furloughed folks, they want to come back to your company knowing that you have a plan for them. They're either going to come back and be able to hit the ground running just as they were, or if there has become a need to pivot, that you have created a place for them to go. Folks like that who are really engaged and forward thinking about their place in your company, they want to know that you've been thinking about them too, and that they have their spot waiting on them when they return. So really great points there. So thinking about engagement, so we've talked about communication, let's get into engagement. So the first thing you should know about pulse and engagement surveys right now is that there are so many companies offering free surveys. There's so many tools, software, resources, articles, so many tools out there as talent leaders have come together for the benefit of the entire industry. Everyone's really coming together to help talent leaders. And Rabbit, of course, is offering our free 90-day COVID-19 pulse survey and ongoing engagement suite. But now is the time to take a pulse if you haven't already. It's a good time to test out continuous employee feedback if you haven't already. Go ahead and take advantage of some of these discounts or free offers from all of these vendors. You might as well. And then another use case is to hold an L&D workshop. Use ongoing feedback afterwards to measure and help employees apply what they learned during all these workshops. I think, people have really been leaning into L&D workshops throughout this time of remote work and remote learning. Go ahead and have something in place so that when they finish racking up all those certifications from all the workshops, they can apply and get the credit for what they're applying and actively using. And Vince, I know you mentioned furlough folks earlier, and we know that engagement surveys can be used to understand how they're feeling about your company and their opportunities.
Yeah, you need to kind of gauge whether or not they're coming back or who's coming back because you have to plan. If a large percentage of folks won't come back, you need to get your talent acquisition team engaged quickly so that when you do come back, you're ready to go. But, the problem with this is you kind of can't straight out ask them, hey, you plan on coming back when everything's okay? You just can't do that. So you have to be a little creative with the questions on these pulse and engagement surveys and things. Something like, how do you feel your company is handling the furlough situation? That'll give you some indication right there how they, if they feel like, well, you're doing a great job, that's great. If they feel like, well, they handled this really poorly, that person is at risk. Things like, what are you doing in the meantime while you're not at work? Have you taken any optional learning and development? And remember the word optional because, again, we're dealing with the no work rule thing. We can't deal with that. Have you found a part-time job? That's something folks will do, sometimes find a part-time job. We have to be a little careful about what the part-time job is. If the part-time job is better than the job they have normally, again, that person is at risk at coming back. So you need to find out these things. You can ask those questions. Now, once you have all this data, what happens after that? You kind of got to, data is great. And the folks at Rabbit do an excellent job of gathering data for you. And that's fabulous, but it's what you do with it. So once you have all this data, you have to do, I've broken it down to 5 things. You have to listen, answer, coach, revise, and provide. And that may sound crazy, a lot of words there. So first of all, you have to listen. Anytime you're collecting data, folks that give the data to you need to know that you heard what they said. If you're not sure about what they said, or the meanings are a little off or something like that, guess what? Ask some more questions to clarify your answer so that you know exactly what you're looking for. The second one is answer. Once you ensure that the employees have heard you, if you do things that they said to do, they know that they heard you. You have to answer them. Sometimes the answer is just, hey, we can't do that right now, but we heard what you said. Coach, anytime you're dealing with this, you're going to have some changes in your organization. So you have to coach executives and leaders and teams and sometimes individuals on how to deal with these new things. Because, how many times you're in an organization where you hear, we've always done it this way. Well, guess what? This isn't always, and it may have worked always, but it no longer works today. That may require some coaching to get some people to be able to make the changes that they need to. Revise. Obviously, if you've come up with solutions, or if you've heard things that you didn't know before, and you decide you're going to take those into consideration in the things that you do differently, you're going to have to revise policies and procedures and processes and workflow, because it's important that they understand, the people that you've surveyed understand that you heard them, and here's what we're going to do. So here's the changes show up here. And the last thing is you have to provide some things. And what's that? Necessary tools and education and equipment and things like that. So if you need to do things differently, you can't just say, oh, well, we heard you want to do it differently, and we're going to do that, and then leave them to their own devices, not exactly the way you do it. You have to provide some things. Now, I will caution that sometimes when you're in this area, you may need to get some help from some folks on the outside, especially when it comes to coaching. Organizations usually aren't prepared to do coaching and things like that, or revise policies and procedures in areas where they're uncomfortable or unknowing. A lot of professionals out there that can help you deal with that.
Yeah, and I mean, to mirror what Vince has been saying, there is about to be one of the biggest talent marketplaces we have seen in history. So it's going to be on us that we want to be on the receiving end of that, not on the regrettable loss end of that. And what that means is, again, you have to communicate. It's all about that perceived organizational support. Our Chief Science Officer, Alexander, recently released a paper about what questions you should be asking your people right now to understand what's going to be happening in the near and far future. So that's that engage part. Make sure you are asking the right questions. Make sure that they do feel a sense of loyalty to you. And if not, correct it.
Oh, Hillary, I've kind of lost you a bit.
Three things when you're thinking about your plan is communicate, engage, and act.
Okay, so Hillary, I at least had trouble hearing you just then, but it sounds like you just did a recap of what we had been talking about, which is essentially go ahead and communicate to your folks, even your furloughed folks, in a very, protected way, of course. Engage with them, take their pulse, and then act on what you learn from that data.
If you can hear me, that's correct.
Perfect, you're back for me.
Okay, great.
So what's next for you? We like to end our episodes talking about what's next. So sometimes for you, it might be that you're just wanting to learn some more. So we've offered here a couple of resources for any folks on the line that want to simply learn. They're in the research stage. We have a free white paper coming your way on understanding and supporting your remote workers. You can also sign up to receive our monthly newsletter right there at hello@rabbit.co. And then also we've linked to Amplify Talent's public Google Doc, which is a wonderful wealth of information. It's well organized. It's just global talent leaders dropping in all the information that they're picking up as they go along. So it's resource rich. It's a wonderful thing. And then how can we help? So if you'd like to learn more about Rabbit, if you'd like to learn a little bit more about that free 90-day pulse survey and engagement suite package, send my colleague here, Hillary, a little note, and she can help you out right away. And then for Vince, if you'd like to learn more about retaining and communicating with your employees with ProVault and ProNavigator, he's your guy, and his email is right there. He can help you out as well. All right, so I think that's it for me. How about anybody else? Any closing remarks?
Yeah, I mean, just since you can hear me, you know, we talked a little bit about that communicate, engage, and act. And as we continue to go through this journey, we want to make sure that everyone knows that both myself and Vince are here for any questions as a resource, and we will continue to be here throughout this process. This is not normal, and nobody knows what's going to happen, so it's okay to need support. And please lean on us for any support we can provide.
Excellent. I'm just happy to be here and to work with you guys and to help show some folks what's coming or what we think is coming and how to deal with it now. Because remember, this will end, and now's the time to act. You don't wait till something happens before we start moving, or we'll miss it. We'll miss the whole talent war. We don't want to miss them, do we?
No, not at all.
That's right.
Well, thank you again, Vince, for joining us. It was excellent to have you on the line today. And Hillary, of course, as always, thanks for your time. And thanks to you for joining us, and we hope you have a wonderful week.
Thanks.
Thanks,
Take
guys.
care.
Take care.
Bye-bye.